Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin. It has been 3 days, but who is counting, since Election Day, and we still do not know which party will control Congress. Here's where things stand right now in terms of the balance of power. In the Senate, Republicans hold 49 seats at the moment. Democrats with 48. As we know, you need 50 plus 1 to have a full majority. And to the outstanding races that could decide it all. In Arizona first, Democratic Senator Mark Kelly, he leads his Republican challenger, Blake Masters, by more than 5 percentage points at this moment. In Nevada, Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto is nearly trailing her Republican challenger, Adam Laxalt. But we do know in both of these races, both of these states, there are still many votes yet to be counted. So we need to watch this closely. In the House, Republicans need just 7 seats now to win the majority, and there are 26 House races yet to be called. Former President Donald Trump, after facing some real blame for the red wave that never came about, he is now lashing out against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in, of course, a potential preview of a 2024 presidential matchup. It comes amid growing calls inside the Republican Party to make major moves away from the former president after these midterm results. We have it all covered for you this hour. Let's begin with the one, the only, John Berman, for more on the key races of what is outstanding. Where are we?
Yeah, you know, it's Fun Friday, Kate, which means Math Friday. Math Friday.
I'm excited.
Let's start with Nevada, where Adam Laxalt, the Republican, is in the lead by about 9,000 votes over the Democratic incumbent, Catherine Cortez Masto. Yesterday, the margin was 15,000 for Laxalt, so it is shrinking, or it shrank, I should say, overnight. Why? Because there were votes counted and processed in Washoe County, which is a swing county in the state. There were 18,000 votes counted there. 18K, let's write that down. It went about 60% for Catherine Cortez Masto. That allowed her to close some of the gap there. And then you look here in Clark County, there were 12,000 votes counted there, 12,000 votes, and she won about 61%, the Democrat did. Allowed her to close more even there. The reason I'm giving you these percentages is we have about 57,000 votes remaining from Clark County, 22,000 from Washoe. If she continues to win 60 to 61% of them, that might be enough for her to overtake Adam Laxalt. We are watching that very closely. Needless to say, more votes will be processed by tonight. In Arizona, you can see Mark Kelly, the Democrat, ahead by 115,000 votes. He has grown that lead from about 95,000 yesterday. There were votes reported from Maricopa County, also Pima County. Down here, there are some 540,000 votes left to count in Arizona, including in Maricopa County, 290,000 votes that were handed in, mail ballots that were walked in.
Jump in only because we need to head to Washington right now. Because the vice president is taking part in the wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknowns. Let's listen in, everyone. All right, Vice President Harris, Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff.
We'll take 2 more down. In observance of Veterans Day, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin joins former Defense Secretary and Vietnam veteran Chuck Hagel in a ceremony marking the 40th anniversary of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Live coverage this afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern on C-SPAN, also on our free mobile video app C-SPAN Now, or online at cspan.org.
World peace, it was absolutely essential that Nixon.
Both went to West Point, both graduates of West Point, and both of them won.
Yep, absolutely, and not just blacks and Hispanics, but women. So, one of the things we were told was that abortion was going to kill the Republicans because women were upset about it, and we're not going to vote, and we're going to stick with the Democrats, especially suburban women. But the Fox News voter analysis shows that there was a 10-point shift of women to Republicans in this election. In 2018, it was 60-40 for the Democrats, and this year it was 50-50. There was we made gains with Hispanics, 4 in 10 Hispanic voters, up from a third in 2018, and Republicans gained 4 points with black voters. So those aren't massive gains, but they are small shifts. But where the real shift happened was with Ron DeSantis in Florida. Ron DeSantis won re-election with 20 points, which is the largest vote margin ever for a Florida governor race. But he won female voters by 7 points, which was a 16-point increase from his last election. He won Hispanics by 14 points. It's not just that he gained, he won them. Right. He won the majority by 14 points with a 22-point increase from his last time. So if we want to learn how to expand those numbers nationally, the lesson is in Florida, looking at what Ron DeSantis did.
And I'm going to talk about this with Will Cain coming up, but if you dig into those very numbers that you were quoting, school choice, it's parents. And it's across demographic groups. It's across racial boundaries. It's just giving parents the best education possible and putting them in charge of their children's lives and education, not
a week ago that they'd still be in the fight in places like Maine's 2nd District and some of these districts in California that have become such battlegrounds in recent years around Orange County. I think they would have taken that bet, but it's essentially they have to pull an inside straight to make it happen here and pick up the balance of those seats that are remaining. As you look at the projections on the screen right now, though, Jose, that is, a majority, if Republicans do get it there at 220 or anything less, or a Democratic majority, is within the realm of possibility there, that is barely a functional majority in the U.S. House. I think we should be looking ahead to some of these big fights in later December, in the lame duck session, but also into January. When you only have a couple votes to spare in our politics right now, it's going to be very, very difficult for whoever controls the House to get any work done, including even electing their own leaders with margins that are that slim. We're about to see something in the House that we've not seen in a very long time, just in terms of the fragility of control of the lower chamber.
Yes, yet Garrett, I mean, the Democrats and certainly Nancy Pelosi has been quite effective with a very small majority of the House.
That's right. Pelosi, is sort of the master of this kind of thing, the horse trading necessary to keep a caucus in line. Kevin McCarthy, by the way, is also very, very good at the kind of intrapersonal politics it takes to give members what they want. He's going to get something like the equivalent of a final exam here over the next 2 weeks, which is to see if he can lock up a leadership post, potentially the speakership, should Republicans win. Because Republicans who don't like Kevin McCarthy don't have an alternative candidate necessarily right now, but they are going to want things from him. What can he promise to the far-right factions, the more moderate factions in the House, to earn their support without giving all of his own power as Speaker away? That's going to be a fascinating test of his ability to be successful as a Speaker, to see if he can even, pull the votes together to get the gavel, should he have the opportunity.
And I'm thinking, Christine, I mean, this has been such an unprecedented election. What do you think the message is from voters on the 8th?
Well, I think voters, by and large, said that they wanted conversations about policy. Republicans said from day one, if they gain control of the House especially, they're going to start impeachment proceedings about what? It doesn't matter. They just said they'd impeach Biden, Pelosi, possibly members of the cabinet. And I think a lot of voters are really concerned about a woman's right to choose, climate change, student debt, the list of, gun control, you name it. I think Democrats are realistic that they won't necessarily have majorities, even if they are able to maintain both houses. But they actually do want some sort of productivity and not just a deadlock Congress that does nothing but bring up charges against the president. So I think that's what we're going to see. And, as Garrett said, we're gearing up for some intra-party fights as well, not just with Republicans, but also with Democrats, thinking about what the future of the party looks like as far as policy priorities.
And Jonathan, Donald Trump is scheduled to make his big announcement, whatever that is, on Tuesday night, which is expected to be another presidential run. But not all Republicans are on board with another Trump bid. Take a listen to some.
You want to see the party move forward from Trump?
Yeah, I think moving in a different direction as we move forward is a good thing, not a bad thing.
I think there is room for somebody, whoever that is, to come forward with an optimistic vision instead of this constant division and grievance thing that we've been, really good at for the last number of years.
He doesn't want to lose, and so I don't think he goes through with it at the end of the day.
Jonathan, it's it's, I guess, unexpected until it happens, but it seems as though it's more likely that the former president will announce another run.
Absolutely. He's been wanting to for months and months, and he doesn't seem like he's going to be deterred by the results of the latest election. He's got, some advisors that want him to push off. There have been advisors trying to get him to push off for a long time. I think some of them don't want him to run at all. But Republican voters are going to be faced, if he does run, with a choice like the one that they had in 2015, which is, do they unify behind one alternative to Donald Trump? Or do they fracture and watch Donald Trump take a nomination with about 35% of the vote and then, struggle to at least win a majority of the popular vote in a general election? What we've seen from Trump twice is he's lost the popular vote. When he did win the presidency, it was very narrow on the margins. And, of course, we have this super divided country. However the House control is decided, however the Senate control is decided, we remain essentially evenly divided in terms of political power, which is something we're going to have to reckon with for the next 2 years and maybe beyond that.
Yeah, and Robert, I mean, you know this better than anybody else. Barack Obama got 71% of the Latino vote in 2012, the highest number for anybody. George W. Bush got the highest number for a Republican. He got 44% more or less of the Latino vote in 2004. Is there someone who could ever reach those high watermarks, you think?
I think it'll probably be tough, but I think it's this requires a lot of intellectual energy and some real effort, I think, on the Democratic Party's part to begin to think through how to appeal to Latinos in a broader sense. And Jose, you know this well. They're far from monolithic. I have friends who think, oh, I don't understand why Latinos aren't for us because we support immigration reform. And I think it's just a kind of a terrible way to think of one group of voters. It's a vast group of voters with a lot of important economic concerns. And I think Democrats are going to have to turn to speaking with these voters, not just a few weeks before the election, but every single day about a vision of economic opportunity and prosperity that they can get behind.
Yeah, I mean, it is striking that President Obama got it, understood there is no Latino vote, there are Latino voters, and to a certain degree, George W. Bush certainly understood it. So,
Absolutely.
Christina, we've talked a lot about Latino voters. What was the African-American turnout like?
Well, the African-American turnout, per usual, African-Americans overperform. And I might argue that African-Americans also are not a monolithic group. And far too many Democratic candidates kind of come around in the last few weeks of the election like, yes, you're our loyal faithfuls, but they have to do much better. All voters go to the polls thinking about economic and pocketbook issues. And so even though immigration may be of great concern to not just Latino and Asia, but also Black American voters as well, people from the Caribbean and the continent of Africa, we do know that it has to be a more sustained economic vision from the party to actually make sure that Black voters continue to overperform. I mean, the Republicans have chosen a white nationalist route that doesn't really appeal to a lot of African Americans, but the other option is abstinence. And there is a growing frustration that we hear every 2 and 4 years that African Americans feel as though they are by far the most loyal Democratic voters, African American women voting at roughly 95%, African American men voting at roughly 89%. Then in a far distant, third and fourth place are Latinos and Asians. So we know that there has to be a better economic vision that isn't just pandering, and it doesn't come around just a few weeks before the election. Yet and still, we see this every 2 and 4 years. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Midco Sports Plus every
gives you a certain detachment.
All 7 crew members aboard were killed, including Christina McCullough. That was the first school teacher set to go to space. It says the fragment of the shuttle is at least 15 feet by 15 feet. It's likely larger since part of it is covered up by sand. Divers for the History Channel documentary first spotted it in March while they were looking for something else, wreckage from a plane from World War II.
So what do you think this is, Jim? Definitely an aircraft. I think we need to talk to NASA.
So that remnant has thermal tiles, and NASA believes it is from the underside of the Challenger. The piece is being left on the ocean floor for now as NASA then figures out the next steps. Quite a discovery. One of the marine biologists called it a somber moment. Coming up, when we will get a decision in the desert, we're going to take a closer look at some tight races in Arizona. And hanging in the balance, Leland Vittert will be joining me to analyze some of the other remaining races yet to be called. And happy Veterans Day to everyone who has served our country. Thank you for your service. We will bring you the story of a veteran whose legacy is still shining. That's straight ahead here on News Nation Live.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa. A force of nature. This hurricane's.
Your money matters. Deciphering daily how to make it, manage it, and protect it.
You see lots of fake tickets.
Your recall watchdog, unveiling trending technology and budding businesses all across KELO.
Definitely something I'll be coming back for.
When it impacts your assets, the buck stops here. Your Money Matters. Weeknights on KELO News at 10.
Your Money Matters is sponsored by I-29 RV Supercenter.
Save money with the Snapshot app from Progressive. How do you feel?
Seriously?
Verzenio plus fulvestrant is
with Kisqali when taken with an aroma
and fast itch relief. Or find a specialist. Here, tell your doctor about new or worsening eye problems such as eye pain or vision changes, including
please remain standing for the invocation given by Chaplain Kimberly R. Willis, Executive Director of the National Chaplain Service for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
Good morning. Let us pray. Most gracious and eternal God, we invite you into this sacred space where we gather in community on the hallowed grounds of the Memorial Amphitheater to acknowledge, to honor, to remember, and to express gratitude to those who have served in the armed forces, to defend the higher ideas of America's promise, of the unfettered value of human dignity and striving, in the pursuit and attainment of freedom, equality, and justice for all people. They have selflessly stood watch from generation to generation, to sea, to shining sea, and abroad, in the still of the night and the deadliest of storms, via air, land, sea, and space, to ensure that the hope inherent to the city on the hill could be realized in the least and the greatest. Their call to duty did not come without sacrifice, and we thank you that you are the God of intimate connection, who knows each veteran and their families by name, and to whom you have issued your own promise to never leave nor forsake. You are a God that not only sees their woundedness and hears their cries, but a God of devoted action who heals even in the darkest moments of the anguish of those who yet carry the visible and invisible wounds of war. You are the God who visits the hush harbors where the secret things of their heart reside. You are also the God who dwells at the Wailing Wall, providing comfort to those who mourn the loss of their mentored angels, who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for a grateful nation. God, today, we pray that the sacrifices of our veterans serve as a beacon for every individual to take personal account and responsibility for the preservation of this great experiment called democracy, the uplift of this sovereign nation, and the human flourishing of all of its inhabitants. Now, may God bless the veteran service organizations who champion the cause of veterans and reminds us that no person is left behind, the families and caregivers of our veterans who companion them in their journey, and the Department of Veteran Affairs who faithfully binds the wounds of military service and facilitates the mental, physical, and spiritual well-being of all veterans. Finally, may God bless each of you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Jack McManus, National President, Vietnam Veterans of America, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Protocol for this occasion is to stand and place your hand over your heart or render a hand salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. It is now my distinct privilege to introduce the members of the Veterans Day National Committee. The committee was formed by presidential order in 1954 to plan this annual observance in honor of America's veterans and to support Veterans Day observances throughout the nation. Please hold your applause until I have introduced each special guest. If you're able, please stand when your name is called. Mr. Jack McManus, National President, Vietnam Veterans of America. Mr. Timothy M. Borland, Commander-in-Chief, Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. Mr. James E. Robbins, Jr., National President, Fleet Reserve Association. Mr. Don McLean, National Commander, AMVETS. Miss Arlene Baker, National Commander, Army and Navy Union, United States of America. Retired United States Navy Fleet Master Chief, Paul A. Kingsbury, President, Non-Commissioned Officers Association of the United States. Miss Patricia Harris, National Vice Commander, the American Legion. Mr. Chris Vedvik, National Commander, Military Order of the Purple Heart. Retired United States Marine Corps Sergeant Major Johnny Baker, National Commandant and CEO, Marine Corps League. Retired United States Army Chaplain Brigadier General Robert Pliskowski, National President.
Whatever else it's going to turn into. Is this a preview of 2024? We'll discuss.
Black Friday specials are good today during Carl's Why Wait sale going on right now.
This stainless steel refrigerator is only $6.49.
Why wait?
This LG 70-inch smart 4K TV is only $6.49.
Why wait? Black Friday specials are good today during Carl's Why Wait sale going on right now. In fact, save up to 40% on major appliances.
This is one sale you don't want to miss. Take it from Elmer.
Why wait? Carl's, your servicing dealer since 1956.
The night. Prebiotic oat and rich sweet will be there.
Telling the stories that affect us all and make South Dakota a great place to live. Dakota News Now. News when you want it.
Now to our series, Be the Light. And on this Veterans Day, we want to shine our spotlight on a Marine Corps vet who has a new mission on life.
Following the attacks on 9/11, Idaho native Parker Harger enlisted. And after 5 years of active duty and 3 years in reserves, Parker decided he wasn't quite finished serving others yet. Take a look.
I'm the founder of So Good, a local nonprofit here in Boise, Idaho. Every time I would turn on the news or you look at any social media, it was always, hey, this negative thing is happening. And I thought a lot of what happens bad happens for no reason at all, right? And I was like, what if we decided to do something completely opposite? What if we decided to do something good for no reason at all?
It's an idea inspired by Parker's dad, Kenneth, who passed away in 2015 from brain cancer.
I noticed at my dad's funeral that everyone that got up, all they spoke about was, man, he came by, he gave the shirt off his back, and he fixed a flat tire for me, and he changed my car battery. And it definitely set me on a trajectory to give back.
Which is just what the Marine Corps veteran has been doing through his nonprofit, So Good, since its start in 2019.
It's community, it's seeing a need and just taking care of it.
And when COVID caused the Boise Veterans Home to close its doors to family and friends, Parker was there to help.
I said, Parker, it's just devastating that these families can't see their loved ones.
My first thought was, what if I created a mobile video cart?
We connected them, and it was the most beautiful thing. The daughter just started crying because she hadn't seen her mom in months.
And Parker's efforts extended far beyond the walls of the Boise Veterans Home.
I was doing these free coffee for nurses. This little girl caught my eye, Peyton. So I talked to her parents, and they were like, we're just kind of right in the beginning of all this.
Hi, everybody. I'm Peyton Parker.
Just 2 months prior, Peyton had been diagnosed with a rare and aggressive cancer called desmoplastic small round cell tumor.
We were told chemo would not work, and we were going to probably have to face the inevitable, which no parent wants to hear. I couldn't breathe. It took it away.
I can't imagine as a parent going through something like this. And so when I have the opportunity to bless this family, I'm gonna do it.
He took our whole family to Meridian Speedway to watch the races. He did coffee in honor of Peyton for all of the teachers at her school. He gave Peyton a bike one of the best medicines is just positivity, and Parker spreads a lot of positivity.
Parker hopes to keep spreading that positivity, one act of kindness at a time.
My dad, his legacy of kindness and giving back is definitely living on through So Good.
Okay, Parker, we're weepy. That was the most beautiful, beautiful story about your life.
Thank you.
Boy, your dad must be super proud of you up in heaven. I can only imagine.
Absolutely.
So Good is such a great name.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with So Good?
I would say the name kind of found me. A buddy of mine at work said, "Hey, how's life?" And before I could answer, he said, "You're going to say So Good." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Every time I ask you anything about anything, you're always like, So Good." And the name just stuck.
You know what's so awesome about you is you witnessed what happened on September 11th. You served. You see a little girl who needs help. You serve. You see people being separated during a pandemic. You serve. Is that why you're so good? Do you feel like that's what makes you this positive force?
Yeah, absolutely. And there was something I saw on your guys' show the other day. You guys were talking about seeing the good and being the good and how amazing you were at seeing the good, and you were talking about that. And I've just been able to be a person that sees something, and instead of seeing it as negative, I look for a way to make it into a positive.
Well, and I feel like your act of kindness must lead to a million others, like the ripple effect.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that sense? Like it's like you hand off, and then all of a sudden, you feel it all around.
Oh, absolutely. And people have sent me pictures of stuff they've done with So Good shirts. My kids is one of the things I'm most proud about, that their teachers will say, "Hey, one of your kids today saw something in the hall, a bully or something, and they were wearing a So Good shirt, and I noticed that your child helped them." And as a father, you can't be more proud of your kids for something like that.
Well, yeah, and you know where they got it from.
You're doing everything.
They got it from you.
Yes, they did.
And you got it from your dad before them.
All right, we have a little something for you. Are you ready?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Starbucks told us that they support veterans and military families, and they were so inspired by your work supporting veterans through So Good. So they are thrilled to present your foundation with a $5,000 grant from the Starbucks Foundation.
Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome.
We know that that will do a lot, but also they'll be donating $5,000 worth of gift cards so that So Good can continue to spread kindness.
That is so awesome.
Coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I actually think you talking on this show is going to really have such a ripple effect. I know you've touched so many people, but we can't thank you enough for sharing it here today. If you're watching this, you're thinking about, like, what can I do?
Yes, and how awesome that there's people like you that see the good.
Thank you. We love you, Parker. Thank you. And if you're inspired to spread a little kindness in your community, share it with us. Use the hashtag #DoGoodToday.
Yeah, put a little So Good on there. Okay, coming up next, the new faces of fashion taking over the internet. After this.
My car.
And that would happen every couple of
Craig, it's one of the weaknesses that get really highlighted in nine-man football.
Nation. We have come a long way. Much remains to be done. The future of our nation is dependent on the young women and men who raise their hands to uphold the Constitution of the United States. There is little to be angry or little to complain about now with the way veterans are treated by our nation. And that's largely because of the way our leadership treats us and how the Department of Veterans Affairs has become so transparent and so efficient, and because of the leadership of their secretary, it's my honor to introduce the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, Dennis McDonough.
Jack, thank you very, very much. Madam Vice President, Mr. Imhoff, Secretary Austin, and teammates from the Cabinet. Most of all, veterans, your families, caregivers, survivors. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our country's annual Veterans Day celebration. Today is a day to honor veterans, to remember all that they have done for our nation, for each of us, to reflect on those heroes still missing in action, heroes whom we miss, we love, long for, and hope to see come home, and soon. And recognize that when veterans served, their families, their caregivers, survivors sacrificed right alongside them. And Veterans Day is something more. It's a call to action for each of us to serve vets every bit as well as they have served us. On Veterans Day, indeed, every day. Because as President Biden has said, and reminded us again this morning, veterans are the very backbone of this country. They put profit and self-interest aside. They put their lives on the line so that the highest ideals of this nation, our core values, might continue. And the thing is, veterans don't only keep those ideals alive by serving our country in uniform and fighting our nation's wars. They also do it long after the last bullets of war have been fired, by serving with steadfast courage and selflessness, like the selflessness of the Vietnam vets of America that Jack just talked about, right here at home. Think about it. When our country needed someone to finally break the color barrier in Major League Baseball, it was Lieutenant Jack Robinson who did it, with his talent only exceeded by his courage, discipline, and determination. When our country needed to win the space race, it was Lieutenant J.G. Neil Armstrong who planted his foot on the moon in that giant leap for this nation and for all mankind. When our country needed to heal after Vietnam, it was Corporal Jan Scruggs who created the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall and helped open the nation's hearts to the heroic service of Jack and his fellow Vietnam vets. When our country needed, for the first time, to embrace the needs and challenges of disabled American kids, it was World War II veteran Dr. Samuel Kirk, the father of special education, who led that historic change. And when we needed to be educated on the effects of toxic exposure on the battlefield, Specialist 4 Kelly Kennedy told human stories of suffering service members, veterans, and families, including the 11 families I heard about over breakfast this morning, so we would not forget. Those stories, those vets, Robinson, Armstrong, Scruggs, Kirk, Kennedy, those are the vets you already know. But there are many more vets just like them, whose names we may not know, but whose impact resonates in every community across the country. You see, when the country needs something difficult done, when we need to do the hard thing, the right thing, so often it's veterans who answer the call. Whether defending our nation overseas or strengthening the fabric of our communities here at home, their honorable service, your honorable service in uniform, sets the example for the rest of the country. They're the caretakers of our national ethos. That deep and abiding sense of purpose they learned in serving. Their camaraderie, their determination, their sense of teamwork that made them stronger together in combat and now in their communities. That's exactly what we need today. Camaraderie, truth, togetherness, true service, true patriotism. Because We are indeed all stronger when we're together, when we're one. Simply put, through their service, their selflessness, veterans teach us, remind us what it truly means to be an American. It's something all of us, each of us, can learn from. And for that, we're forever in your debt. Madam Vice President, reinforce that ethos that veterans exemplify. You encouraged us, as you said, to believe in what we can do together. And with your and President Biden's leadership, your and his tireless advocacy, this country together is doing so much for veterans. We're grateful for your leadership, for your unrelenting advocacy on behalf of veterans, their families, their caregivers, their survivors. With that, it is my great honor to introduce the Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
Adam, the race is so close, it could be headed for...
I'm not concerned.
And survivorship of local communities.
Good morning. Good morning. To Secretary Dennis McDonough, I thank you for the work that you have been doing so tirelessly. It is noble and important work. First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff, Secretary Lloyd Austin.
Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987. Camp Lejeune.
Important. I was on Broadway.
And what that means. I think both.
Thank you. And in particular to our veterans, service members, families, caregivers, and survivors. It is a profound privilege to thank and honor you today and every day. So we gather to pay homage to all those who have served our nation in uniform, at home and overseas, in times of war and in times of peace. Generations of veterans defended our country and our most sacred values, from the fields of Yorktown to the trenches of the Marne, from the beaches of Normandy to the banks of the Chosin Reservoir and the streets of Saigon, from Baghdad to Fallujah to Kandahar. You stood as one to protect our democracy and our freedom. And even when you returned home and took off your uniform, you continued to serve and to lead in communities across our country. Veterans, after all, are nurses and firefighters, Little League coaches and small business owners, faith leaders and elected officials, mentors and teachers. Every day, through your life's work and your example, you make America stronger. And on Veterans Day, we come together as a nation then to express our profound gratitude for all you have done and continue to do. Here, on hallowed ground, we also remember those who gave their lives for our nation. We remember our service members who have not yet returned, and their families, and we reaffirm our commitment to bring home all those missing in action. Veterans represent the best of America. Unwavering courage, unmatched talent, and unshakable devotion. You come from every corner of our country, and out of many, you become one, the greatest fighting force in the world.
Visibly repair the colon lining. Check, check, and
Greatest fighting force in the world. As Vice President at the DMZ in Korea, aboard ships in the Indo-Pacific, at SOCOM and CENTCOM in Florida, and on NATO's eastern flank, I have seen firsthand how America's armed forces protect the highest ideals of our nation around the world. Since 1789, American service members have sworn an oath not to a person, not to a party, but to the Constitution of the United States, to support and defend the principles of liberty, equality, and justice, to preserve and protect our democracy. Veterans, you're the one who answered the call. And in so doing, you left often the people you love and the place you call home. You missed birthdays, holidays, and graduations. Some of you first met your newborn baby on a video chat. You risked everything, and you gave up so much to safeguard the lives and the liberty of people who you may never meet. To be a veteran is to have truly known the true cost of freedom and to have borne it for all of us. That is a debt that must always be remembered. And I believe it is a debt we must all work to repay. Back when I was Attorney General of California and then as a United States Senator, we fought to protect the health and well-being of our veterans and service members. And as Vice President, I am proud to serve alongside one of the greatest champions of our nation's warriors, our President Joe Biden. President Biden and I believe that as Americans, we have a sacred obligation to take care of our veterans and our military families. Fulfilling that obligation means making sure veterans can access the support and the resources they need to thrive. For example, it has meant connecting thousands of veterans with job training to help them leverage the skills and experience they gained while serving, to build a new career, and to strengthen America's workforce. Fulfilling that obligation also means taking on veteran homelessness. This year alone, we have placed 31,000 veterans in permanent housing, and we are on track to house thousands more by year end. Taking care of our veterans also means taking care of those who love them. Because while our veterans wore the uniform, they were not the only ones who served. And no one understands that better than Dr. Jill Biden. Through her leadership of joining forces, Dr. Biden fights for military families, caregivers, and survivors. And Dr. Biden, our nation applauds your extraordinary work.
Oh, wow. Now she's sort of...
It's life-changing. The Dexcom G6 has helped me
Reduce the VA claims backlog by upgrading technology hiring more claims processors and streamlining evaluations. And as a result, this year, and under the leadership of the Secretary, we processed more VA claims than ever before in history. And we also came together, Democrats and Republicans, to support millions of veterans exposed to toxic substances while working and living near burn pits and other dangerous environments. The PACT Act, as has been mentioned, is the most significant expansion of health care and benefits for veterans and their survivors in 3 decades. And it was passed because of the leadership of our President and because of the leadership of so many of you, and we are indebted to you for that hard work and success.
Burgers you ordered, Hot Chef.
It's going to be 3 if you don't finish yours.
First time on the couch, welcome to you, my dear.
Yay.
And Rob Smith. Today is Veterans Day, and we honor all those who have served our great nation in uniform, and we thank them for their service and sacrifices. We are so grateful, and we are so fortunate to have Rob on the couch, a decorated Iraq War veteran who served 2 tours in the Middle East. Rob, thank you for your service and for joining us today, my friend.
Thanks for having me, always.
All right, turning to our top story, the balance of power in Washington.
60, plot 11854. Lieutenant Akers fought for the PACT Act in his friend's memory. He advocated, he testified, and thanks to him and so many veterans like him, our nation is one step closer to living up to our highest ideals. So all of that to say, America is a promise of security, opportunity, and freedom, not for some, but for all. On Veterans Day, we celebrate the generations of Americans who fought to make that promise real. And we recognize, to truly honor our veterans, we must come together as a nation to defend that promise too. So on that point, I will conclude by sharing the words of Private First Class Abe Laurie, one of the many veterans joining us today.
$9,000 again. I'm very curious to see where these new counts are reported from and if they close the gap. And Kate, I put this slide together just.
He was a member of the 58th QM Sales Company of the United States Army. From 1943 to 1946, Abe traveled across England, France, and Belgium, going from camp to camp, to outfit the men and women fighting to free Europe and the world. In his travels, Abe met thousands of Americans. They came from towns and cities he had never heard of. And yet, as he tells it, even if they only crossed paths for a moment, Abe felt a connection with each. And he said, and I'm quoting Abe, he said, "In the service, we were one people." One people. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And that is the story of our armed forces. And it is the story of our nation. That is who we are. That is who we must be. One nation, united for liberty. united for equality, united for democracy, one nation, united to preserve and strengthen the freedoms our veterans gave so much to defend. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and join the United States Navy Band Sea Chanters Chorus in singing God Bless America. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as we retire the colors. Please place your hand over your heart or render a hand salute. Retire the colors. concludes the 2022 National Veterans Day observance. Please remain standing for the departure of the Vice President of the United States and the official party. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate and honor all who served.
In observance of Veterans Day, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin joins former
answers that you're looking for.
Cortez Masto to lose and not be making such a run for it?
You know, it's a really interesting question, Kate, because in a lot of the public polling leading up to Election Day, she was trailing the Republican Adam Laxalt and a lot of Republicans. You didn't have to scratch the surface to find Republicans saying, oh no, we got this one in the bag. Even on Tuesday, Election Day, they felt very confident about what was going on there. But the mail vote, the M-A-I-L vote, the mail-in vote, has been very favorable to Catherine Cortez Masto, the Democratic incumbent, and she's been getting margins. She's been over 60% here in Clark County in the mail-in vote, even though her overall total in this county is right around 51. Her totals for the mail, and that's what's being counted now, is well over 60%. And if she maintains those margins in the 57,000 votes here and the 22,000 votes here in Washoe County, again, she's been getting over 60% of the mail-in vote here, and she's only at 50% overall. You know, she could overtake Adam Laxalt. One thing I should point out while I have control of the wall here, you can see the margins in the Senate race.
Call him an artist, because I call him a terrorist.
Terrorist? Let's not get carried away, chicken.
Oh, doing what I felt like it was right, like for them to like not bash her because of her body and like appreciate her because of the good job that she is doing with the kids.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned, Roxanne, that this got attention all over the world. Hip-hop artist Fat Joe, who's coming on our show soon to talk about his memoir, he was one of the people who sent love and support. Here's what he said. Take a look.
In New Jersey, they got a sister, school teacher. They trying to fire her because she's too sexy. There's a teacher out there in Jersey that is a special one. I say, let the women be great.
So, I mean, all of those pictures can't be scrubbed. It's there forever, as they say. It lives on the internet forever. How have you been able to move forward?
So, in the beginning, and I want to say really quick, the photograph that she took is of the entire classroom. Right. It is not only of me, but it has been cropped over and over and over and over again, to the point that it's like, oh, she has her bum in this child's face. It is an entire classroom. So
how do you move forward now?
Yeah, that's one. So that's definitely.
Let me say this. I know one thing you're doing. You're an artist yourself, and you have created an adorable digital coloring book. It's called Little Buddy Meets the Art Teacher. So you've turned your pain into something that can heal and teach. And so this is your passion. Little Buddy Meets the Art Teacher.
Yeah, so I made Little Buddy. Little Buddy is a tool that I use with specifically pre-K, first and second grade. Little Buddy that's Little Buddy with the hoodie. So these are the characters that I've been using for years with my children. I had puppets, they are lost now. I don't know what happened to my puppets, but I use them with the kids so they can express themselves, and it's something that I use as a tool because art is not only drawing and coloring and cutting and pasting. Art is a tool used for therapy and healing and growth and fixing. So,
listen, I know that you've been through a lot, and I hope that you continue to heal. No one should be subjected to what you had to endure. And let's face it, it's not going anywhere. But you got a bunch of fans out there all around the world. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jolea and Roxana. And you can order Roxana's coloring book online. Next up, his story went viral because of a wrong turn. How getting lost saved a family from certain tragedy. That viral story next.
You are married?
Yes.
Do you have a child?
Yes.
Correct. How many?
Yeah, right there. Yeah, nice call.
The block in the back was...
I mean, he's not giving me my money till he sleep with me. I gotta...
It's about...
Available at a store near you.
You know, almost 75% of Congress was...
But not for me. You know, they're hypocrites. They don't care. John Kerry says, oh, I can fly private because I'm that important. And you and your commercial jet, you can't do that at all. But when it comes to Joe Biden saying, okay, climate change is an existential threat, let's replace climate change with the Chinese Communist Party is an existential threat. I mean, you're giving them leverage by actually saying climate change is critically important when we know that China is attacking us on all fronts. And now they have a seat at the table when it comes to climate negotiations, and just as Laura said, I mean, they are one of the top most emitters, more emissions than the entire third world combined. So it's hypocrisy all the way down, and they don't care.
Climate hypocrisy is your favorite hypocrisy, right?
My favorite hypocrisy. And so let's get to the baseline of what this is all about, right? There's a method to this propaganda madness. So this is all about the Green New Deal, right? So that legislation is still out there, it still exists. And so all of this propaganda, them talking about climate change, just while they're on their private jets, it's all about eventually one day trying to push that forward. And think about what's in the Green New Deal. We've got free college, we've got universal basic income. It's just like this wish list for the far left. So when you look at all of these ridiculous conversations being had and all of this hypocrisy, remember the baseline is for them to push the Green New Deal socialist legislation.
Yeah. Provide you with the tools and expertise you need.
Assistance, courtesy towing, and rental car options when you're
Tested then with traditional back surgery.
My dog.
And selling points among the veterans advocates who were pushing.
Figure that she had somehow.
Dryer. Downey in Washington killed the Keystone XL pipeline, and he was talking about it's a job opportunity situation. All these people are going to get jobs. Where are those jobs? I mean, it's 2 years later. They're still not available.
Right, because they didn't account for that transition. And they also didn't acknowledge the immediate loss, the immediate gutting of all of those jobs. You were in the field, Carly, having those interviews, interviewing people who lost their jobs that day and interviewing their families. That was so poignant. That was so powerful. I wish the president, I wish John Kerry had watched your interviews, because those are the voices that matter, those ones in that moment that don't have a source of income. And the other half of the equation as well in terms of that hypocrisy is, what would John Kerry do? You know, we learned as well that the pollutant quotient of a private jet is 50 times that of a commercial plane, right? Yeah, and like so much more than a train. But John Kerry himself uses these private jets.
Exactly.
So
and use one to go to a climate conference.
Yes, exactly. The irony and the hypocrisy is so gut-wrenching.
Guys, he's just better than us, okay? That's what it's all about.
Because 90% of the annual carbon dioxide released in our atmosphere is from decaying leaves, so we got to get rid of the trees too. It's going to be the next thing.
And cow. Don't even put it out there.
Oh, the cow farts. Oh my God.
I love the trees.
They're done.
All right, coming up is wokeness driving out the best in America's military. As we remember and honor our heroes this Veterans Day, the urgent message from former Secretary of State and veteran Mike Pompeo. That's next.
Red, white. Apologize. Here it is.
Can I ask our steady cam operator if I could see that shot of Steve's papers again?
Really organized over here.
You were looking down, Rachel. The most magical part of the moment was that he found what he was looking for.
He found it.
I couldn't find what I'm looking for in front of me.
This week's elections delivered huge blows to Donald Trump, most of whose favored candidates lost, including in key battleground states. But Trump is still sending out invitations to a big Mar-a-Lago announcement next Tuesday, despite warnings from some of his own advisors to wait until after the Georgia Senate primary.
I'm advising the president to hold off until after the Georgia race.
If fealty to Donald Trump is the primary criteria for selecting candidates, we're probably not going to do really well.
I think Governor DeSantis is the biggest single winner of the night, and he will almost certainly become the rallying point for everybody in the Republican Party who wants to move beyond President Trump.
Trump even escalated his attacks against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Thursday, dubbing his potential 2024 rival Ron DeSanctimonious. Excuse me, that's Ron DeSanctimonious. It doesn't exactly fit on a bumper sticker after his landslide victory Tuesday in Florida. Joining us now, New York Times Chief White House Correspondent Peter Baker and Washington Post Senior National Political Correspondent Ashley Parker. Welcome both. Ashley, Donald Trump has been counted out so many times before, only to rise again and be backed by Republicans, but you get the sense this time could be different. What do you think?
So this moment, this is obviously something I've thought a lot about and reported on. This moment feels very similar to the immediate aftermath of January 6th, where it felt like Republicans who were sick and tired of Trump's antics had a moment to kind of rise up and move the party past him. And then, of course, we know that didn't happen. January 6th is hardly the first time. There was what he said about McCain right when he began his first presidential campaign in 2015. There was the Access Hollywood tape. So there is an element of deja vu here. But in talking to Republicans, operatives, donors, strategists, you're right that it does feel like another one of these potential opportunities where they are really facing this existential question of those who want to move past him, which is there is potentially a moment, and how can they do that? And also, how do you message that to not just the base, but even a Republican Party who doesn't really love an anti-Trump message, and at most sort of feels like they voted for him twice, they like a lot of the policies, they kind of like his presidency, they don't like the chaos, they don't like the antics, they don't like the controversy. That's a very nuanced line to try to move the party past a former president who wants to be president again.
And let's listen to, Clark County, Nevada election official Joe Gloria responding to Trump's lies about the slow count.
Obviously, he's misinformed 2 years later about the law and our election processes, which ensure the integrity of elections in Clark County and the state.
So you're getting that kind of pushback because it obviously we know how this misinformation spreads and the truth never catches up online. And when Donald Trump puts this out there, Peter, it leads to all sorts of suspicions. We saw this stupid circus of the Arizona audit and all the time and money that was spent on that and the confusion in the public mind. There's no fraud going on, or no appreciable fraud or miscounting going on in the normal processes in Arizona and Nevada. They just do it very slowly.
Yeah, they do it slowly, and it's a little frustrating, I think, for everybody. So it does, of course, lend itself to people like Trump who want to spread unfounded conspiracy theories. And I think that that's an issue that those states obviously need to think about in terms of making sure their credibility is protected against that kind of those kind of lies. But look, Donald Trump has never cared much about facts. Facts don't matter to him. He basically posits whatever reality suits his needs at the time, and that's the reality that he's choosing to posit there now. He'd rather stir suspicion and uncertainty in order to justify his own defeat in 2020. He doesn't want to admit that he lost. The more he can say the system is broken, the system is awash in corruption and fraud, the more he can justify the fact that he lost to Joe Biden, which is something he's had a hard time accepting. And that's it's also setting the stage for 2 years from now. But one of the things that's really striking, Andrea, is not only did a lot of election deniers go down to defeat, a lot of the people who did go down to defeat accepted the results. They accepted the verdict of the voters, and they did not, in fact, echo Donald Trump's claims of some sort of perfidy here. They accepted the system as it is because, in fact, there was no massive fraud, there was no massive corruption, and I think that they are breaking away from Trump in their own way as well.
Yeah, you saw John Bolduc in New Hampshire, Lee Zeldin in New York, Mastriano in Pennsylvania. None of these people are denying that they lost. You had concessions in a lot of these races. Did Tudor Dixon also concede to Gretchen Whitmer? I think she did.
She did.
So let's explain the help me here. Decentorium.
Sanctimonious?
I can't even catch up with it. So let's explain it better than I have with Ron DeSantis' wife tweeting out this ad titled "God Made a Fighter." Let's watch.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a protector. So God made a fighter, someone who challenges conventional wisdom and isn't afraid to defend what he knows to be right and just. So God made a fighter.
So, Ashley and Peter, that's why Trump called him desanctimonious. It was that ad that triggered that Donald Trump response, Ashley. Yeah, it's pretty amusing.
It was that ad and it wasn't that ad. The desanctimonious specifically came from that ad, but Donald Trump has been bothered by the pretty clear ascent of Ron DeSantis for quite some time now. Trump's people have long denied it up until recently. DeSantis's people have also sort of said nothing to see here. But Donald Trump had been workshopping nicknames and ways to kind of bring Ron DeSantis, in his view, down a peg for quite some time. Because this is how Donald Trump responds to someone who he believes is a threat, is with sort of bullying, public trashing, and of course, a famous nickname.
And Peter, to switch gears, I just wanted to catch up with your reporting also about Ukraine, Vladimir Putin, and decisions within the administration, decisions and dissent, which they've been denying. That General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, of course, is urging diplomacy by Ukraine sooner rather than later, looking ahead to a very tough winter and the carpet bombing by Russia, and White House advisors pushing back. What can you tell us?
Yeah, exactly. And these internal discussions happening at the White House right now, General Milley, who is the top military advisor to the President of the United States, is pushing for the idea that diplomacy is better sooner rather than later. His point is that they are going to sort of reach a stalemate line for the winter, in his view. He's pointed to satellite imagery showing Russians digging trenches and so forth. And therefore, his argument is that the Ukrainians, who have done spectacularly better than anybody expected on the battlefield lately, should go ahead and try to cement those wins at the negotiating table, try to find a way to end the slaughter of all these people at a time when they are at their strongest. But there's a lot of pushback, or at least a lot of doubt, at the White House, where I think they would like a negotiated solution at some point down the road, but they believe it's too soon right now. Jake Sullivan, the president's national security advisor, said yesterday to reporters, we're not pressuring Ukraine. That's what we really want to make sure they're not seen doing. They do not want to be seen as pressuring Ukraine. And they think that General Milley is getting too far out in front right now.
And one final footnote, political footnote here, which I should have mentioned. Ashley, you've got a bunch of state legislatures, key legislatures, first of all, in Michigan, where Gretchen Whitmer had so much success, and they flipped the legislature to Democratic from Republican, and they're on the verge of doing that in Pennsylvania. This becomes hugely important going forward, especially with 2024.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And in Michigan specifically, it was a real success story for Governor Whitmer. She won a big election victory against a Trump-endorsed sort of MAGA election denier in Tudor Dixon. And she lifted on her coattails just about everyone down the ballot and flipped both the Michigan House and the Senate Democratic for the first time in 40 years. So people are now looking at her as a likely next generation leader, in part because she will be able to accomplish, they think, so much more with finally full Democratic control throughout the state.
Individual. It is about you as the team, your individual characteristics, how you look, your gender, none of it matters. You have one common goal, you act as a team, and that's what we have to get back to, I think, in our military. That's how the strategy has to go, because this is just not working, and it's actually kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and that's exactly what everyone in the rank and file are begging for. All right, coming up, we saw a massive $2 billion Powerball payout this week, but critics are now calling lotteries, wait for it, racist. We will try to explain next.
Be eligible for Medicare Advantage plan. time. Spirit, I know that you were all concerned about your pets, and 2 of the pets made it out. Your family members, how are they doing?
They're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
That's Missy. That's my older brother's dog.
Missy.
Christopher
says, "Oh, Missy, she's so cute, isn't she?"
She's a giant cuddle bug. That was her actually cuddling with me while I was trying to sleep in the camper. That's all she's been doing, is just trying to get as much cuddles as she possibly can.
Oh. Well, listen, I know life is not a fairy tale ending. No. And I know there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of rebuilding emotionally as well as the physical home that you'll need. So you lost a lot in the fire, and we want to help you piece things back together as best we can. So to take some stress off your plate, literally, our friends at Gobble are giving your family 1 year's worth of dinners worth $8,000. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. And for those who don't, Gobble is the easiest and tastiest home cooking solution in America. You'll choose from a diverse weekly menu, 15-minute recipes that are freshly prepped by chefs, delivered right to your doorstep. Their chefs do all of the prep work, chopping the veggies, making the sauces, marinating the meat, so busy families can have a delicious meal, no stress, no fancy cooking skills needed. I'll tell you, in my most difficult times in my life, sitting down for a meal with my mom and my dad, it's like problems didn't exist.
Yes.
And so we want to be able to have your children not worry about where they're going to eat and what they're going to eat. And that is not all. So we found a wish list filled with everything from furniture to clothes to appliances and toys. I'm also told you like a pressure cooker like me.
Oh, man, that's
yes,
a lifesaver.
ma'am. So guess what? It's not on the wish list anymore.
Aww.
We bought it all for you. All of those items on your wish list will be coming to you. Some meals for the kids. We went down that list and got all of these things that we hope will help you start to piece together life again. If you need a dog sitter, Spirit, I'm your girl. I might have to help you out from time to time when you're in school. Brendan, we did not forget about you. Gobble did not want to forget about you either, so they want you to have their incredible gifts as well for your bravery. 3 months of dinners worth $4,000 so that you can write your music and not worry about what you're going to have there.
You need to eat.
Dinner says you need to eat.
Yeah,
so
I'm a little skinny.
You look great. And, you know, I'm rooting for you in your career and your dreams.
Yes.
Because anyone with a heart as big as yours deserves for all of their dreams to come.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much, Tinder. Thank you. What do you want to get?
Can I say something?
You can say something.
I had LED lights hanging up in my room, and they fell and hit my fire thingy. And it's really weird how they didn't go off because when my LED lights hit them, they went off.
The LED lights in your room?
Yeah.
Are they broken now? They're gone.
Burned up.
Do you like LED lights?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're not ever.
It's holiday season. I'm going to write you a personal check so you can decorate your room with whatever you want, okay? Now, what's your favorite? What's your favorite characters? What's your favorite characters? What are you into now?
Roblox, Minecraft.
Roblox.
Robots? Okay,
Roblox.
I have a 3-year-old. I got to write this down. We'll talk after the commercial break. I'm going to do your room for you. My Christmas gift to you when your family settles in, okay? Thank you, Brenda, the entire Lehman family. And thank you to our dear friends over at Gobble. When we come back, she went viral for her 15 rules for first dates. Wait until you see why her rules for dating sparked a controversy when she posted them after the break.
The worst we have, we will certainly take it with the impacts of Nicole here in Savannah.
Happen in that first 6 months after they leave.
By a system that is transferring wealth out of their
controlled by the Democrats.
So what is the return on investment? I think can be a debate for both parties for a long time to come, getting back to campaign finance reform. It's good to see you, Matt. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. All right, let's get back to another race we're watching closely, that tight race out of Colorado. Trump ally, Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, fighting to keep her seat, facing a real challenge from Democrat Adam Frisch right now. This race is so close, it could trigger state laws, meaning an automatic recount. Joining me now for much more on this is Colorado's top elections official, Secretary of State Jenna Griswold. Secretary of State, thank you so much.
Us. And I think that that is just a very weak argument. And I hate that it just takes the agency away from black and brown people in this country all the time. So that's why I hate that argument.
That's such a good point. And we were talking in the break, I played the lottery too, and we both agree there is that moment when you buy the ticket and go, this could be it.
This could be it.
Like you just think, you The just big one. really think. Just a couple of weeks ago, former President Obama was saying the one thing about Democrats, they got to stop being killjoys. That everything is
and here we are.
bad. Yes.
And here we are. This is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertainment. I mean, no person really.
He'll have to win 2 votes. One, to get the majority of the support of his conference behind closed doors. That's relatively easy. Another on the floor, in which he needs to hit 218. And there are some Republicans, I'm thinking of Matt Gaetz for one, who have said time and time again they will never vote for Kevin McCarthy. And so what can he promise to the people who oppose him? What of his own authority might he have to give away to get to 218? It's a very, very challenging situation to even become Speaker. And then with a majority that narrow, you're essentially dealing with, 200 people who could be like Joe Manchin, who have demands all the time as you're trying to lead that conference. And Andrea, just within the last hour, we've learned that he's not the only Republican that might have some leadership challenges. Mitch McConnell, whose hold on the Republican conference had looked much more secure of late, especially after the lackluster showing of some of Rick Scott's, the sort of Rick Scott NRSC apparatus. Now we've got Marco Rubio tweeting that he thinks Senate leadership elections should be delayed. Josh Hawley agreeing, saying let's at least get past Georgia. It's not clear who a consensus alternative to McConnell would be, but remember, he's someone who is, come January, would be in position to be the longest serving leader in either party's history if he can get reelected. Watch this space. We'll see what exactly is going on with these kind of cracking at the seams here of the Republican conference in both chambers.
Well, 1 second, you've got my attention. Is Marco Rubio trying to be a kingmaker, or is he going to go for it himself? I mean, to challenge the king, you've got to be able to kill the king.
Exactly right, Andrea. I mean, that's the challenge here. Again, simple majority. Somebody's got to be able to get, 50 plus 1 of the Republican conference. Not clear if that's Rubio, his fellow Floridian Rick Scott, or some other consensus candidate. I'm trying to do the back of the napkin whip count. I can't figure out who else could potentially get there, but perhaps Rubio has a plan. We're trying to find out.
2 seconds of my life, that's as close as I got. Here's what annoys me about the Democratic Party, besides everything, is that if something has a disproportionate effect on black and brown communities, that's racist. Why don't they articulate exactly what's happening? If there's some type of disproportionate tax, essentially, on impoverished people who do play the lottery at greater rates than those with higher incomes, well, then dig down deep into that. Why isn't there more effort, to your point, at restoring those communities to levels of education and access and agency, instead of just shouting about the fact that, well, maybe they're like, maybe this is worth it. They can make their own decisions what they do with their money, just like every American can. But that level of, it's this automatically, which then makes actual racism diluted, and also, we think better for you.
Right.
It's always coming from that place of total condescension as well.
Absolutely, and in order to do that, they would have to actually do some work in terms of digging deeper into the systems, like Kara said, but they're just not interested in doing that. And also, they're the ones that are enacting a lot of these policies.
If they dug that deep, they would find themselves at the bottom, so they won't.
Yeah, exactly. Or they would find themselves conservatives.
Oh, boy. All right, we'll be right back. In case you missed it, is next.
Create something.
Threat is real, so you can get faster police response.
These are all real rules, or was this put together for social media?
I think a combination. I love a list.
2-point conversion play earlier, Gervais.
And washing up along this concrete, what used to be seawall, gone. at the power of Nicole. What you have to also understand, and speaking with the Volusia County Sheriff this afternoon, he was telling us, and it's kind of shocking to hear it, what Ian started, Nicole finished. Ian started, and storms before Ian started, much of the erosion that eventually led to what you're seeing right here. Very sad. The good news is nobody was injured or killed in any of this, but you can see actually one of the homeowners up there in the hoodie. Her name is Nina. This was her forever home. She is a widow, 35 years in this home, and now she is seeing all of her priceless belongings washed out to sea, memories with her late husband, and a home that she loved and thought she would be in for the remainder of her days. And now most of it is gone, hanging off the side of a cliff, all done by the power of Hurricane Nicole at the time. Of course, there is so much more to talk about here, but the images tell you so much about what it's like to live through this in Wilbur by the Sea. The Weather Channel will continue to storytell after the storm. I'm Justin Michaels, the Weather Channel.
All right, Justin, thank you very much. We have significant impact still associated with Nicole over much of the southeast and mid-Atlantic. On the left, you can see Savannah, Georgia. Weather is getting better there, but it's getting worse in many other places. On the right, you can see the center of circulation. Now we think somewhere in the higher elevations of western North Carolina, but on its periphery, on the periphery of Nicole, we are seeing some very impactful weather still right over here in northern North Carolina and southern Virginia. We have a couple of tornado warnings, and I can guarantee you there are going to be a few more at least. If you live, let's say, in Richmond, and you think, I'm not in a warning now, you're not in a warning now, but you might be in the next hour or two as a cluster of supercells moves your way, each one of them capable of producing a tornado. Here's warning number one. Halifax and Warren counties in northern North Carolina. All of this activity, this supercell with a possible tornado in it, is moving across the border into southern Virginia at about 35 miles per hour. There is another supercell with a possible tornado with it. That is near Alberta, Virginia, in Brunswick County. This warning goes for another 4 or 5 minutes, but the one just to the north was just issued, and this is going to be an extended tornado threat into counties to the north, including the cities of McKinney. So heads up, if you live there or anywhere in between Alberta and McKinney, there could be significant weather your way, including the possibility of a tornado. Now, how about farther western areas of Virginia? Roanoke, tornado warning issued for the city of Roanoke, including Bedford, Franklin, and Roanoke for about another 10 minutes or so. This storm, I looked inside of it, has rotation like all the others. Some rotation stronger than others. There's a possibility with any one of them of supporting a tornado. Look, the atmosphere is bubbling over. There's no doubt about that. The clear skies from here and there are allowing the atmosphere to get more unstable with each passing hour, and that tornado threat continues. We have enough instability over the region, and the last graphic I want to show you is the tornado watch that goes in effect until 3 o'clock today, but I would not be surprised if indeed we see another tornado watch issued, or at least an extension of this, Lynette, as the severe weather threat. It's going to go on past 3 o'clock today.
Yeah, Dr. Postel, probably further off to the north and east, yeah. So we're watching some localized flash flooding possible out there as well as this system continues to push on off towards the north and east. And we're also watching some river flooding, so be aware of that. We will have some widespread rain and also gusty winds at times. The wind's not the biggest issue at this point, but we could see some gusts out there as we still do have some wind advisories. In the meantime, here are the areas that we're going to be watching for that flash flooding. So know where you would go if you do get a flood warning out there. You need to get to the highest level as possible. So this is what's going on here. We're going to time this out for you as we go into about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock on your Friday. A big push, a big surge of moisture working its way from the south to the north. So we're hitting areas back off towards Portland and Boston, Syracuse, on down towards Richmond, even getting in on this action. So make sure you are prepared as you head out and about this evening, maybe a little bit of a date night going on. Make sure you do, if you have to get out, you do have that big umbrella, but I suggest that you stay in just curled up with your date. But we can see what's going on as we go into your Saturday. We get some dry time, which is some good news.
Yeah,
Okay. Did it come back to you?
Well, it was that Agent Orange.
Okay.
The Agent Orange problem. But I'm also
I'm a left-wing person, I'm just as patriotic as a conservative.
Okay. Larry in Columbia, Tennessee. Hi, Larry.
Hi.
Morning to you.
I served in the United States Army from May of 67 to June of 70, and I spent 68 and 69 in the Republic of Vietnam. And there's a whole lot of veterans that got really messed up with the PTSD and stuff. I'm 100% disabled for post-traumatic stress disorder. But I think the VA is doing a good job of taking care of it. It's just that it's a whole lot of benefits that the veterans don't know they have. And you have to just keep digging in and make sure you get all of your veteran benefits. This is for all veterans.
Larry, how did you do it? How were you able to determine what you deserved?
Well, I called my local VA. I found out about transportation to and from the VA appointments we have. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that they provided that kind of service. And my social worker told me that she didn't know anything about it, but I had to go above her head. And now I'm getting my transportation to and from my VA appointments, and it's wonderful, all the benefits we have. But if you don't know about it, you can't get it. And they won't tell you that the benefits is there. You just have to find out for yourself.
Okay. David in Dallas, Texas, another veteran. Good morning to you. Thanks for calling in, David.
Hey, good morning. I really appreciate you all taking calls from veterans, because there are so many issues I could go into. But I can tell you that the Dallas VA Medical Center is probably one of the best ones I've ever used. And I really want to call behind that old Vietnam vet because I wasn't going to call, and then I heard his call. And I was moved to call because, the point he made, as soldiers, sailors, airmen, whatever we did to serve, we had no choice, whether it was Donald Trump, whether it was Mickey Mouse in the White House. I'm a little nervous.
Oh, you're doing great. You're doing fine. Go ahead.
We had to serve. We had a mission, and that mission had to be carried out. I lost friends, and all of this. I was 83 to 86, and then I was Papa Bush sent me to Desert Shield.
You still there, David? David, are you still there in Dallas, Texas? All right, we'll go to Joe, who's in Green Valley, Arizona. Hi, Joe.
Good morning to you. I was in service 1964 to 68. I was in a part of the Army that was an offshoot of the old OSS from World War II. We were kind of a secret bunch of people that worked in a different world.
Where did you, during those years, where were you?
I spent a year in Turkey, and the rest of the time I was assigned to the National Security Agency.
What kind of work were you doing?
I guess the easy way to say it, we were the beginning of the electronic spy world. We did things differently. I currently am a volunteer at the Tucson Veterans Administration Hospital. I work in the pharmacy doing things. Unfortunately, I came out of the service was not much of anything. I'm not eligible for anything from the VA by the standards, but yet I have got a hearing aids, and other than that, I get pretty much nothing, and I have no regrets of getting nothing, as I can afford the other thing, and I didn't lose or gain anything while in the Army except a little education.
All right. Dennis in Clanton, Alabama. Dennis, which family member served in the military?
Oh, thank you so much for taking my call.
Is this Dennis?
Can you hear me? Sorry,
you know what?
Me?
You know, hold on one second. Let me go back. I think I pushed the wrong button. Is that Dennis in Alabama? Let me try that. Dennis in Alabama, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Happy Veterans Day. We all of us owe our lives to the veterans, and I know quite a few, my family members, and they're not getting the service that they were promised. I'm really concerned about the enlistments have fallen so low, and I'm very concerned about why that is. It's because they don't want to fight or trust under this government right now, because of how everything they do, it turns to, you know what? They're teaching they're training our servicemen on woke. They can't use certain words anymore. They're more interesting, instead of protecting our country, into going woke. They're not gonna. We don't have the men and women we need, and the problem is who is in charge right now with our government. If we had a strong country and we were together and loved one another, loved our country, it looks like half the people don't love the country. But it's not the right time. I would not encourage my children to go and join the service at this point. That's a terrible choice, and I'm so sorry that that's the way it is.
Dennis there with his thoughts in Alabama. More of your calls coming up. We're talking to veterans and their families this morning, all others, about the issues for veterans in our country as we mark Veterans Day 2022. In some other news this morning, front page of the Wall Street Journal, easing inflation fuels a stock surge yesterday. Apple in particular, seeing their gains, some posting the biggest gains since 2020. And then also inside the Wall Street Journal, there's this headline: the Fed is still on a path to raise rates a half point despite the easing inflation. And he's not the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, he's not the only monetary official. Others across the world and other countries are saying in unison that raising of interest rates has to continue in order to get a grip on inflation. As we told you, President Biden is in Egypt for the United Nations Climate Change Conference. The New York Times this morning has this headline: Biden will face a world demanding reparations. Poorer countries are saying, as you can see the T-shirt on this protester that says, "Make big polluters pay." The big polluters being the developed nations, paying the developing nations for pollution. Mr. Biden is the only leader of a major polluting country to attend the climate talks in Egypt. President Xi Jinping of China, President Vladimir Putin of China, and India's president have all stayed away. Mr. Biden is hoping to connect with Mr. Xi at the Group of 20 meeting next week in Bali, Indonesia. Climate talks between the United States and China, the world's two biggest emitters, have been largely frozen since August over tensions around Taiwan, human rights, and other issues. There have been informal meetings this week at the UN Climate Summit between John Kerry, President Biden's climate envoy, and his Chinese counterpart that may soften the ground for substantive talks between their bosses in Indonesia next week, as the New York Times points out. There is also this news this morning in the New York Times. Student loan cancellation plan was blocked by a judge. A federal judge in Texas on Thursday rejected President Biden's executive action to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt, further clouding the situation for millions of borrowers who have applied to a program already on hold because of legal obstacles. That's a developing story this morning. Then I want to share this piece written by Mitt Romney, the Republican senator from Utah. It's in today's Wall Street Journal in the opinions section. Republicans reach a fork in the road. And he says, we can govern in the people's interests or make a lot of pointless noise. I hope we choose wisely, he writes. He also says, excessive spending not only adds to the national debt, it is highly stimulative and inflationary. And he notes that inflation was one of the main issues on voters' minds this week. The Fed has its foot on the brakes while the administration and Congress are flooring the gas pedal. If Congress wants to slow inflation, both parties will need to work together to find solutions to the entitlement crisis. It isn't rocket science. Some mix of changes to revenues, benefits, and eligibility is necessary, along with a promise that no program will be eliminated and current and near retirees won't be affected. So that's Mitt Romney writing in today's Wall Street Journal. And you can find that if you go to WSJ.com. President Biden yesterday, along with the vice president, took a trip to Howard Theater here in Washington, D.C., to talk with workers at the Democratic National Committee and thank them for their work in the midterm election cycle. Here's what he had to say about his desire to work on bipartisan issues and also his determination to oppose Republicans if they pursue certain policies.
Look, I also think the American people sent a message that they want us to work together. I've always done that. I know I got criticized for it when I ran. I said I was running for 3 reasons. 1, to restore the soul of America. 2, to build this economy from the middle out and the bottom up. And thirdly, to unite the country. Regardless of what the final tally showed, I'm prepared to work with Republicans. But the American people have made it clear. They expect Republicans to work with me as well. And folks, I'll always be open to any good ideas, whether it's Democrat or Republican, to move the country forward. But I've also made it really clear that if Republicans try to repeal the power we just gave Medicare to reduce prescription drug costs, I will veto it and let it happen. If Republicans try to walk away from the historic commitment we just made to deal with the climate crisis, I will not let that happen. If Republicans try to cut Social Security and Medicare, I will not let that happen. And if they try to cut taxes for the super wealthy again, the biggest corporations like they did in the last administration, I will not let that happen either. Look, now as we look at tax cuts, we should be looking at tax cuts for working people and middle-class people. And I'm going to keep the commitment we both made that no one making less than $400 grand a year will ever see a penny in their taxes go up as long as we are in power. And folks, and I love the Republicans talking about big spending Democrats. We're going to keep working to keep the federal deficit low. We cut the deficit in 2 years by $1,700 billion, more than ever in all of American history. Oh, I don't want to hear Republicans calling Democrats big spenders. We're the ones bringing down the deficit. They're the ones that blew it up over 4 years. And one more thing. If Republicans pass, and I don't think they can do it now, a national ban to ban abortion, I will veto it. It's simple. We need to codify Roe v. Wade as the law of the land.
President Biden yesterday talking to workers at the Democratic National Committee.
Special to say.
That's absolutely right. Just on this Veterans Day, as every day as we do, I'd like to honor and thank my father, who was a commander in the U.S. Navy. That's him. A picture of him from 1977, a long time ago. There we go. And Laura, I know your cousins served.
Yes, I want to say thank you to my cousins John, Stephen, and Eric, all brothers who some of them are currently serving, some of them are veterans. Thank you for your service.
That's right. Rob?
I just want to remember Specialist Jose Mora and Sergeant Dale. You can see the in Iraq. We remember you, salute your service, and are praying for your families.
That's right. Kara?
Thank you, Dad. A Marine helicopter pilot for over 30 years, Semper Fi.
Oh, some stuff.
Yeah, this day it's really special. You know, we honor and thank veterans every day, as we keep saying. I'm so proud to be a part of this organization as well, that we do that in like-minded community. But on this day, to honor them formally, it's really wonderful to engage the community, and especially with campaigns like this that really do make a difference for the vets we love every day. Thank you to everyone. Don't forget to DVR the show. And now here's America Reports.
With Election Day about to stretch into an election weekend and an election month, millions of Americans are on pins and needles, tracking vote counts like they're billion-dollar lottery tickets. We're expecting new numbers to come in tonight from two of the most crucial counties in Arizona and Nevada, where Senate races and that contentious governor's race between Kari Lake and Katie Hobbs have yet to be called. How local elections officials...
Dozen races that are still too close to call. And for Republicans, it's getting ugly. We have new details about GOP infighting, a revolt from the right flank seeking to oust both Kevin McCarthy and possibly even Mitch McConnell as the party's respective leaders in the House and Senate. But first, let's take you to Arizona and CNN's Josh Campbell at the Maricopa County Election Center. Josh, where do things stand there?
Anna, the counting continues here. In the state of Arizona, we're still waiting on over 500,000 ballots to be counted. 340,000 of those in this county alone, Maricopa, the most populous county in the state. And it's worth pointing out that of those 340, 290,000 votes could tell us much more about what is to come. And that is because that is from a tranche of votes that were delivered by residents here to the polling locations, but they were in envelopes. This was the mail-in ballot selection, but for whatever reason, the voters decided to actually hand those to election workers on the day of the election. The officials here tell us that means that's going to take some additional time to count, because they have to go through the process of checking signatures, of checking voter information, all part of this robust process that's underway. And as we look at that information, that could signal to us where this election is going, because if it starts leading to more Republicans showing up in those counts, or more Democrats for that matter, that may signal about what the final result may be, because we know some Republicans actually suggested to their reporters that they use their mail-in ballots to vote on Election Day. So a lot we could be learning in the hours to come and throughout the weekend. This is all coming on as election officials here continue to bat down a host of conspiracy theories, particularly from this Republican gubernatorial candidate, Kari Lake here, who had suggested that officials here are trying to slow roll this process, to slow walk it for political purposes. Election officials here, including the Republican head of the county election, lashing out and condemning those attacks. Take a listen.
Quite frankly, it is offensive for Kari Lake to say that these people behind me are slow rolling this when they're working 14 to 18 hours. So I really hope this is the end of that now. We can be patient and respect the results when they come out.
So it's ironic to us that people who are calling, into question the integrity of this election and want faster results don't understand that it's actually those processes that add the integrity to our election process.
And that is a key point that we're hearing from officials here, that if Republicans were suggesting to their voters that they vote by mail on Election Day, that comes with it this process that's going to take a little bit longer. So they're urging patience. And of course, the two key races here, the U.S. Senate, Mark Kelly and venture capitalist Blake